Welcome everyone to our webinar today. My name is Diane and I will be acting as your MC of the webinar today and introducing you to some of the team here at Nationwide while we talk about custom virtual exhibits. A couple of brief housekeeping items. In the world of Zoom, I'm sure you've heard these a lot, but everyone is muted just to keep the experience a little bit easier for everyone. If you have a question during the presentation today, feel free to go ahead and drop it into the chat down at the bottom of your screen. We'll be fielding some of them during the presentation and we'll be holding some of them to the end. So if you type a question in and you don't see the answer come up right away, please know that we'll get to all of them before the end of the session. Throughout the session today, we are going to be doing a live demo. So that may be subject a little bit to your internet speeds, but we're going to take you through both the Nationwide Displays exhibit as well as some client exhibits. So very excited to have you all here today. And without further ado, I'm going to turn the camera over to Steve Griffith, President of Nationwide Displays. Steve?
My name is Steve Griffith, and I am President of Nationwide Displays, and we're pleased to have you participate in our virtual experience. For those of you who do not know much about Nationwide, we are a full-service exhibit house, servicing the exhibit industry for over 65 years. Some of our services include custom fabrication, rental exhibits, design, graphic design, logistics and management, I&D, interiors, and millwork. And like a lot of companies, we've taken a look at to see where we can expand our capabilities. Two areas that we've been successful at has been created by having a couple of brainstorming sessions with my team, and they are building temporary hospitals and safety partition divisions along with virtual. For our safety division, we've developed temporary hospitals for two areas. One where we build them for, excuse me, something in my throat, for the state of Massachusetts and also the state of New York, where we built two temporary hospitals for both states within the past 3 months. The other part is providing PPE items, partitions, sneeze guards, quarantine rooms for schools, signage, and graphics. The other one is the virtual division. The driver behind the virtual program has been our creative director, Joe Cristiano. Joe felt the best way for our clients to continue and connect with their customers was the use of virtual technology. I could not have agreed more, and we are proud to be creating virtual environments for a number of our clients. The idea of this presentation is to introduce you to the world of virtual and the application. What is it? How can I integrate it into my marketing program? What is the ROI? We hope this presentation will give you an understanding of virtual and the value that it can provide to your program itself. Virtual is not just a patch to replace for future face-to-face marketing once we get back to it, but we feel that it is a bridge paralleling in-person events for the future and beyond. With that, I would like to turn it over to Karen Johnson, our Senior Account Manager, who will be presenting the demonstration to you. Karen?
Thank you, Steve, and thank you to everybody who's joining us today. This is exciting to be doing our first webinar, and especially on such an exciting program that we're really, really proud of. So our custom virtual experience program is web-based, and that means that you can use this during trade shows, virtual trade shows, as a sales and marketing tool, as well as on your website. You can use it for corporate events, including sales meetings, and it truly is limitless. So during trade shows, the trade shows are offering a great platform for exhibitors to continue to have a presence in the industry markets, but the format of these shows is not quite what we're all accustomed to. Our clients had started exhibiting at virtual shows, but the feedback was that the experience didn't quite have the wow factor that you get on a traditional trade show floor. And most of our clients, like most of you, I'm sure, have custom exhibits that were designed to suit their needs from aesthetic and functionality standpoints at the shows. Your presence at the live shows is not a cookie cutter exhibit, and we believe that your presence at the virtual shows shouldn't be cookie cutter either. It really needs to fully represent your brand in ways that you are proud of. The other aspect that exhibitors have been missing is the ability to easily connect with visitors, customers, and buyers. So those face-to-face interactions, we all know that they're such a key part of participating in shows. And because of these challenges that our clients were facing, we knew that we had to develop a program that delivered that same impact, that same wow factor, as well as that same opportunity to connect with visitors in the virtual space. Experts in the field are predicting that the virtual component of shows will become a permanent part of shows, even when the in-person shows do return. So you'll be able to exhibit in person as well as virtually in what we hope will be the near future. The other way to use the virtual experience is for sales and marketing. And our clients who are utilizing custom virtual experiences already have been reporting that their sales teams are having great success with this new tool. It's not only highly impactful, it's also very easy to use. So there's been no resistance, even from some of the more seasoned salespeople. Your marketing team can just have a lot of fun showing off your new virtual experience in their marketing campaigns and using it for promoting upcoming shows and events that you plan to participate in. And of course, you can also use your virtual experience on your website. Since it's a web-based program, as I mentioned earlier, you can host it right on your company website if you choose to. We can also host it for you, or you can go through a third-party hosting company. But if you host it on your website, it truly enhances your website visitors' experience when they're welcomed into your uniquely special world. This program can be linked to your Google Analytics account as well as to your CRM. So you're able to track visitor traffic throughout your virtual experience the same way that you do on your website. And you can also capture data about your visitors, and that data would get integrated right into your CRM so that it functions just like a traditional lead retrieval tool would. And if you have order forms or an e-commerce site, those can also be linked or embedded right into this experience. I'm going to be doing a high-level demo for you today, and I'll show you several of our custom virtual experiences that we've developed, including some for ourselves for nationwide displays, as well as a couple for our clients. And we hope that after this webinar, you'll reach out to us and request a more in-depth one-on-one demo. But this should give you a really good idea today of what this program has to offer. What you're seeing on your screen now is a basic icon legend, which shows some of the icons that you'll see as I take you through the demos. And your virtual experience can also have an icon legend that we would create for you, and you can have either custom or standard icons, and we can have this legend right on your experience so that your visitors can understand how and where they can move through your space and interact with it. Here you're seeing an example of the toolbar that will appear at the bottom of our demos. Excuse me. And this legend explains what these hot button features are, what their functions are, so that, again, your visitors can navigate through your space with ease. It also helps to ensure that it is user-friendly for visitors of all ages. So now I'm going to take you over to our demo. Give me one moment. Okay, so I'm going to click to enter our nationwide displays demo. This is the really exciting part of the day. And let me just say up front too, please excuse any slight delays that you may experience when we're streaming via Zoom. It sometimes can cause a little bit of a delay depending on what your bandwidth is. So, but just rest assured that if you do see that, it's not an actual part of the program. It's, again, it's just the bandwidth that you might be experiencing with your internet connection. So you'll see at the bottom of the screen here is that toolbar with the function buttons, the hot buttons that I had mentioned and showed you the legend for a moment ago. This remains on the screen no matter where you are in our virtual space. That way, if somebody wants to connect with us. They don't have to necessarily navigate to the icons to connect with us. So we developed a few different size virtual experiences for nationwide displays. And I'm going to start here with this 10 by 20 so that I can really highlight some of the most common features before showing you some of those bells and whistles. Each of the nationwide displays virtual experiences are set in a traditional trade show hall, which you can see here. But as you'll see a little bit later, the environment around your exhibit, your experience rather, is one of the many ways that you can take a unique and creative direction with your custom virtual experience. So as you see here, we're using a couple of different methods of creating visual interest on our walls. We have a static graphic here, we have a TV screen showing a snippet of a video, and we have a moving graphic here. And every time I hover over one of these areas, you'll see that it's either highlighted in blue or outlined in blue. And that gives our visitors the cue that this is an area they can click on to interact with the booth. So when I click on at the left side here, our static graphic, we've linked this to a PDF that contains information about our virtual experience program as well as a graphic, and we have it linking to an area of our website. For our moving graphics and our TV screen, when I click on these, we're linking to videos on our YouTube channel. So those videos will launch automatically. And that's just a great opportunity to be able to present more information that you would typically share verbally with people. And now your visitors can go ahead and get all that information while they're going through your virtual space. Over at our meeting table here, I'm going to transport you into the space a little bit more intimately. And you can see here, there's some of those icons that I showed you earlier. So when I click on this icon here, this is going to allow our visitors to connect with us. We have this connected to our Zoom account, but there are multiple platforms that offer, of course, video and audio connections. You don't have to use Zoom, and we'd be happy to work with you to determine which of these platforms works best for your needs and then integrate that into your virtual experience. So for us, our visitors would come and they would choose to connect with us via Zoom. And if it's outside of the days and times that we have set our availability, they can just schedule a meeting instead by clicking on schedule a meeting. And if we have a visitor who is a little camera shy and just wants a quick chat, they can click on this other icon at our meeting table, which would launch a live chat session with a member of our team. And just like with the video connection, if there's a different platform that works better for you than live chat, we can explore that and help you determine that as well. Another feature of this program is that we can have an intro screen. Now I bypassed it for the purposes of this demo, but you can see that I can just click intro screen and launch that. For our intro screen, we just have a PDF with multiple pages, and that one of those pages includes our icon legend. This would be a great place where you could even put a video of your CEO welcoming visitors to your space. It does not need to be a PDF. It can be graphics. It can have your icon legend. You can even have a contact form here where you're collecting your visitors' contact information, and that information would go right into your CRM. And that you can make that so that it's a required function or an optional function. I am going to take you now into our largest nationwide display space, which is approximately 30 by 30. And as you can see in our larger space, we're able to have more features. So there's more of these navigational hotspots that move us around through our space. We've also been able to give ourselves an upper deck, which most of you know is doesn't necessarily fit into everybody's budget, but we thought it would be nice to have an upper deck here for our meeting space and for information about Upper Decks so that we can really keep our lower level focused on our products and services. And again, we've got these meeting connections up here. So I'm going to take you back downstairs. And let me just go around the front here. So in our 10 by 20, you saw that we had one TV screen. And in here, because it's a larger space, we're able to have 5 screens so that we're showing more of our services, or in this case, more of our wonderful clients' testimonials. And when we move in a little bit closer, I'm going to show you this fun feature that we've added. So we have hidden this Easter egg up here, and it's just a fun way to enable our visitors to engage more with the space.
Oops.
Click on it to win something. Maybe it's a discount code, or maybe it's some swag. We all know everybody loves trade show swag, and it is one of the fun pieces that's missing now that we're doing virtual shows. But we also know those people who come to our booths just for the swag. And so one way that we can help reduce that is by using sort of gamification technology. So maybe that hidden object doesn't appear in the experience until they've clicked on a certain amount of elements, or maybe they have to watch 3 videos before it appears. And if we're using our virtual experience at a show, maybe it's a multiple day show, we can change the location of the object from day to day. So now I'm going to take you into one of our clients' virtual experiences. This is Chosen Foods. I'm just going to use this toolbar over on the side here to turn off the beach sounds that are playing in the background, which of course you can see that the Chosen Foods exhibit, or experience rather, is set on a beautiful beach in Mexico with that sunshine. So I had mentioned earlier that the environment that you're in doesn't necessarily need to be a traditional trade show hall. This is especially valuable when using this as a sales and marketing tool, or on your website when you're not participating in a trade show. So Chosen Foods has been a client of ours for several years now, and we've built 2 physical exhibits for them. The second one, however, was meant to debut at a show this past March, which of course the show was canceled. And so at that point, Chosen Foods knew that they needed another platform on which to debut their new products, because at that show every March is when they debut and launch their new products. So the shows that they typically participated in started to offer a virtual option, and immediately Chosen Foods realized they needed to elevate their presence at these shows the same way they do at the physical shows. So their new physical booth has a similar look, feel, and functionality to what you're seeing on your screen here. But we were able to have a little bit more fun, and we weren't restricted by show rules and regulations. So we're able to have a 16-foot high overall display in what would be an inline space, and 20-foot high avocado trees. I mean, how exciting is that? That we're not bound to those rules and restrictions anymore. So, and as I mentioned, the beach, it's even when they're at the trade shows, it's still a lot of fun and really helps them to stand out with this kind of setting behind them. So I'm going to move you into the space over on the right side, and you can see that we've lined their shelves with their product. And so this section here, you can see it's highlighting when I hover over it, and it shows all of their new products. And on the other side here, we've got their classic products. So I'm just going to click on their new products, since this is what they would typically be showing and focusing on at the shows. The product on the shelves is being able to display their product is such a huge part of why they're participating in shows. And it's a requirement of their sales and marketing initiatives. You've got to be able to show what you do and who you are. So this allows them to highlight that. So Chosen Foods had created this information through their CRM. And so it's breaking down all of the products that they're offering, their new ones, as well as linking to their website. And when we scroll way down, you'll see that through their CRM, they were also able to create this form. And here is another great opportunity for where people can fill out this form. And now Chosen Foods has that contact information automatically in their CRM database for future use. And Chosen Foods has reported to us that their virtual experience has been so successful so far that we're in the process of developing additional programs with them. This particular experience that I just showed you has been used in Canada, in the Canadian markets, and now we're developing a totally separate one to be used in the US market. So that's pretty exciting too. I'm going to take you into one more of our clients' virtual experiences, and this is for Banko Dental. So Banko Dental came to us about 5 weeks out from the biggest industry show of the year. They just felt a bit underwhelmed by the virtual space that was being offered by the show. It really didn't allow them the opportunity to highlight the many products and services that they were looking to offer at the show. And since Banko has several divisions of their business offering large and small dental equipment, dental office design, financing, there was a need for a cohesive but clearly defined areas for each of these divisions. So as we enter their space, you can see that each of these divisions is highlighted under these hexagon ceilings, if you will. One of the coolest features of this experience is right here in the front. You'll see here this large dental seating that I'm sure you all recognize this. You've all sat in this a million times, and we've 3D modeled it for this space. So it's not just a flat image, which is what a lot of the shows are offering, either flat images or no images at all. This is 3D modeled, and the blue highlighting tells us that we can click on the equipment to learn more about it. And in this case, it's bringing up a video that does talk more about this equipment. So this experience was actually really a lot of fun to work on, and you'll see as I take you through, you can go through their space, around their space, and really get a good look at so much of what's going on in this space, and a lot of the fun bells and whistles features that I will be showing you. So, oops, sorry, I just clicked on something I shouldn't have. So I'm going to take you into their lounge area over here, and you'll see they have their meeting connection points throughout this space, and their team stands by when they're using this so that they can connect with visitors. And if I click on any one of these tables here, it highlights in blue and lets us know that there's more information, just like everywhere else that I've showed you. But when I click on the tables, they've got a catalog for their tables. So we turn that into a flip book for them because it's just a great solution to how they can show more products in their space without filling the space with furniture, because there's so many other things that they want their visitors to see and experience. And then if I click on their seating, I showed you a moment ago the large dental chair at the front, which we 3D modeled. But this here seating really takes 3D modeling to a whole other level. And just by dragging angle, and this really helps their buyers to know if this is a piece of equipment that would work for them. So with just the right input from Banko Dental, we were able to develop that feature for them. We're going to come over here to where we've got some more of their equipment. So I'm just going to go over to this area. And here's 2 more pieces of equipment on the tables. And for both of these, we 3D modeled them again. And if I was to click on this one here, it would bring up a spec sheet. So our visitors, their visitors, when they go to their physical booth at a trade show, they would probably be handed a spec sheet. And we wouldn't want them to lose out on that key information on their products just because they're not there in person. So it was a nice way to integrate that information. And there's a video that comes up to provide more information on this second piece of equipment here. Just going to switch over for a moment. Bear with me, sorry. So those are the experiences that I really wanted to bring you through today, and just going to bring this up to highlight. Let's see, are we seeing the virtual experience header on the screen now? Wonderful, thank you. So just to recap some of the features that I showed you, of course, there's static graphics and moving graphics and videos, flipbook catalogs, 3D models, meeting connection points, lead retrieval, Google Analytics. I mean, the list, as you see, just goes on and on. And I only briefly mentioned the beach sounds earlier. We can also set music on the background. We also can integrate language translation, virtual reality goggles compatibility so that your visitors can really get that truly immersive VR experience. And because it's web-based, there's a one-time expense, and then you can use this 24/7 every without having recurring fees. And so those are the features, and I hope that as it has been for us to develop it on our side. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Joe Christiana, our creative director, who's going to discuss with you some of the best ways to approach the design of a virtual space. Joe?
Thank you, Karen. Great job there. And thank you, everybody, for joining. I really appreciate you guys taking a look at what we've been developing here. And I'm really excited to share it with you guys. And Karen did a really exhaustive job about going through the demos that we've created and a lot of that functionality. So I just thought that I would just share some ideas and thoughts from a conceptual and a design level on how to approach it, and maybe just give you guys some food for thought if you're thinking about developing a virtual exhibit for your company. So as I said, my name is Joe Christiana, and I'm the creative director for Nationwide Displays. And I've been with Steve for about 15 years now, which is pretty insane to think about how fast that time has gone. And just really proud to be a part of the team that he put together and to see the growth of the company over the past 15 years. As I'm sure that you guys are all experiencing, we have, though we've had our ups and downs over the years, we've never quite had a year quite like this. But it just goes to show of the dynamics and the versatility and really the trust that Steve has in his team members, that we've been able to build this program so quickly. And we were really one of the first on board in developing it as soon as everything hit back last March, and we started jumping into it almost immediately as soon as the show started to get canceled. So while it was scary and frustrating, as I'm sure you guys all experienced on your ends, from a design perspective, it became really call me an optimist, I guess, but it really became pretty exciting actually to think about. What we first did when we first started looking into it was, looking what's out there. And what we saw out there, as I'm sure that some of you folks who have already either attended or exhibited at virtual events, the show offerings tend to be pretty blasé and pretty flat, as Karen had mentioned. She covered that as well. But what that really left a lot of opportunity for us, because what we do as experienced designers and builders of experiences is to make that event and that experience dynamic, something that's unforgettable, something that's unique to the company that and the brand messaging. So with that, we were able to really take full charge and go forward pretty quickly. So what I saw from my perspective immediately emerge was, as I started to, draw the parameters of the design problem, was that really the biggest thing was all of a sudden we were faced with a lack of restrictions. Anybody who's worked with an exhibit designer before knows that if you tell them no budget, they'll show you a $6 million exhibit. Well, all of a sudden we're free to do that, because budget is not necessarily a restriction from a build and production factor. I mean, you have, costs that are associated with content generation here, but you don't have to worry about doing things like you saw in some of the demos that Karen was showing you with a 30-foot wide TV screen or giant 3D letters that illuminate. If you're going to build that into the exhibit, you better really make sure that's the focus of the exhibit, because that's where your dollars are going. Similarly, you're not worried about show regulations. So again, in some of the examples that Karen showed you, you can never really, well, I guess maybe you could put in an event on a beach, but once you're free of show regulations, you could put an exhibit pretty much anywhere, as you saw in shows and food, and you're really not restricted by the show regulations. And as you could see with Banko, some of their branding is based on the hexagon, so you don't need to have a rectangular footprint. You can have multiple hexagons. You could spread them out. You're not limited in that way. And then the last restriction that I didn't have to think about anymore was the laws of physics. So of course, if a designer always has their going at it with their little repartee with the production department, when they're building things that are a little bit outlandish or pushing the envelope a little bit. So here I don't need to worry if letters are floating in the air a little bit, or if something's not exactly stable. Nothing falls down in virtual space unless you wanted to. You can balance a gigantic ship on a pinpoint if you want. So all of a sudden, when you take away those restrictions, it's really liberating and really exciting to think about, and almost mind-blowing to wrap your head around it. So what really became the design problem then is balancing a sense of familiarity on the user experience with the infinite possibilities that you're now afforded. So you can't expect people to enter into a nebulous space that's free of anything that's rooted in the real world. So what we try to do is try to enhance, simulate the experience, but add enhancements to that. And finding that balance is going to be different for every project. If it's if it's a science or a very technical type of company, you might want something that's really rooted in the real world, something that feels solid and familiar. And if you're a company that's a little bit more whimsical, you can, have cartoon characters floating around in the space. So those are just some of the ideas that kind of my design department has grappled with, and they really need to be conscious decisions. of how far you could push those boundaries and where you want to kind of relate it to the real world. And what I suspect is, as the virtual event continues to grow and people become more familiar with them, I feel like you'll be able to push those boundaries a little more and more. The other thought that was that came into our decisions was, what is the constant then? So while the balance between, the real world and the infinite aesthetics possibilities is going to be different from each project, what does remain the same is a sense of dynamism, and something that is going to be experientially impactful in a way that's remarkable, essentially. And with that meant not rethinking, again, free of some of the limitations. Very rarely is there a use for a still graphic. Anything that you click on can be movement. It should have sound into it. And so while my background is in architectural design and graphic design, Steve can attest to this. I've had a continuing love affair with creative disciplines that span the spectrum from video production and video making, illustration here and there, even sound design. So all of a sudden, my job wasn't just exhibit design per se. It could carry over into all of those other elements, multimedia design, video production, video editing. So really an exciting, there's a silver lining on everything. So with that, what I was going to do was just kind of give some more food for thought. If I could share my screen here. Some more food for thought with some different types of applications. So we used exhibits as a sort of point of reference on taking you through what some of the functional elements would be. But you're not limited to that, of course. Retail stores would be really a neat way to go, a neat application for these immersive experiences. And Twinings is one of our clients, and we've been considering, we've been developing an immersive virtual retail experience for them. They have a really famous flagship store on the Strand in England that becomes a destination for tourists and tea lovers. Like my daughter would love to visit there. But if you're unable to get over there or want to see it before you take the trip, we could actually transport you there virtually. We could build this either through building the store through photorealistic 3D modeling, or we could do that with a tour that's photographically based, where you you take those panoramic 360 photos and then you move through the store that way. And then one thing that you can't, that's the aesthetic difference here is that you could click on each one of those products, and you could, as Twinings, our client, could define how the user experiences that tea, whether that's like Karen was saying, a CRM form, a PDF with some technical information, I guess, about tea, or video, or transport you to another scene that is in harmony with whatever the product might be. Facility tours is another one. So this is another project that we're working on, giving folks the ability to take a tour of our facility, to enter our offices and our warehouse, take a look around at what we have. And you could see here the beginnings of a three-dimensional facility tour. But again, this could be done on a photographic basis as well. Science and equipment labs. This is pretty closely tied to the Banko exhibit. This lab is for one of our other clients, Sartorius. But you could build a lab for, if you have colleagues overseas, or they're not able to take the tour for obvious reasons. You can move through the space, click on certain types of models, equipment, and then that equipment could bring up that technical information in any way that that you can define. Banko was pretty close to this. Not that we set it in a lab environment per se, but as the project grew and grew and grew over the weeks that we developed it, we started integrating more and more of their equipment because that's really a cornerstone of their product offering. Art exhibitions, same idea. I know that there are a lot of virtual art museums and art tours that are in place. You could build in a function that takes you to those spaces as well. You could walk through the halls of the Louvre or the Met or a gallery down in Soho, and you could walk through the space again through either whether that's modeled in 3D or a series of photographic pictures, and it brings you and it simulates that experience with enhancements such as the ability to click on a painting or a sculpture and see a detail of that painting or sculpture, or find out information about what art movement it might have been coming from and how much it costs. And plus, you could just put it in your shopping cart, check out, and it'll be at your doorstep in 2 to 4 weeks or whatever. And then same thing with education and museums. So very similar to the art application. Here, if I started to think about what we might do for a museum here, I see that this display has to do with Roman Empire. Maybe you click that and all of a sudden that transports you to the Colosseum in its glory, before it started crumbling. And you're looking around the Colosseum and you're getting information about what happened there in history. One other element that you could build into educational presentations is that of quizzes. So a user might not be able to move to the Greek period until they answer a few questions about the Roman period, for instance. And then, of course, there's the real estate and property tours. This was sort of the no-brainer of this type of tour. You could take a look at a house that you're thinking of buying across the country before you actually have to get in a plane and fly there, or a boat, anything that warrants taking a look inside a space. You get that simulated experience with enhancements. And then, as Karen brought you through a couple of exhibit examples, and she touched base on this, so based on the existing properties that she had mentioned, we based the virtual exhibit for Chosen Foods on the actual exhibit that we had designed and built for them. But again, enhancing that based on the lack of restrictions, and pushing that envelope where we might putting it on a beach. Of course, that's obvious. But then also making the back wall open so you could see, you have this open air field that you could see the surroundings, or rising up it onto a deck, which typically you would never do in an inline exhibit. And then the pie in the sky concept, which we touched upon a couple of times. Banko didn't necessarily need us to reference or want us to reference their existing exhibit properties. So it kind of grew, I guess, organically, in a sense, where they kept feeding us requests and giving us direction on what they wanted to incorporate. And we built the shell, and they filled the shell with the information about their products and all sorts of ways which we've already went over. So some of the services that my team and I have developed were exhibit design, of course. That's a constant, no matter what, whether that's in the virtual space or the physical space. We've also developed capabilities for content graphics and motion graphics, also video editing and production, the interactive design, so any of the interface that you see that could really be customized. You know, we kept it fairly standard throughout here, but you could really get into doing some interactive design with your project as you know, as it grows. And then microsite design, which is really just building a web page around the exhibit itself, where the exhibit can live inside that web page and be embedded upon it. Okay, and I think that's it for me. I know that Diane's going to take a few questions. If anybody has any questions, I'm totally happy to answer any.
Great. So we have had a few questions come in over the text chat. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with them. The first question that I'm going to throw out there is around lead time in the process. So what's the lead time for a virtual exhibit? What's the process to developing the virtual booth? And are there any guidelines that need to be followed when people are just getting started in the process?
So a typical lead time would be about 6 weeks, which of course, as you know, is much, much shorter than for designing and building a physical exhibit. So it's been exciting. I had mentioned earlier that Banko Dental came to us with just 5 weeks to their show, and developing a 60 by 60 in that time with the amount of features that went into their experience was a fun challenge. I don't know if Joe would use the word the same words, but I think he would. So it's about 6 weeks. I'll let Joe speak a little bit more to how he approaches creating these designs.
Fun would be one word for a 6 week the 6 week turnaround of that. But yeah, it's a quicker process because I don't necessarily need to turn it over to production. Production obviously doesn't need to build it, although the build comes in the interactive phase. So the process typically works like you know, your typical exhibit design, where we would design the exhibit for you, and then we would go through the approval process. And then once that exhibit is designed, the difference in this case is that it becomes locked in, because once we move to the next phase is rendering the panorama views, which is the sort of the environment of it. And that's a pretty lengthy process just from a CPU processing time. And then once that's done, it moves into the interactive design. And then by the time that we're there, we start talking about content design. And sometimes, well, we've worked in both ways where, you know, we could create the content for you guys. We can just integrate content that is coming from your end, or we could do a collaboration where, you know, there's a little bit of both, kind of similar to the way that graphic production works in exhibit design. So.
And our initial conversations with our clients are similar to how we would approach any trade show or millwork or any other type of project, an office interior, where we, you know, we work with our clients to understand what their needs are, what they intend to use the space for, and where they may need to grow at some point, so that we can, you know, really get that big picture of how big the space needs to be and what needs to go in it. Are we filling areas with video, with text information? If they need separate meeting areas, highlighting new products and services. So those early conversations start out very similar to any other type of project that we've been working on for 60 plus years.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen and Joe. Actually, Joe, you answered a question that I had about the graphics. So you answered 2 in 1 with that one. Thank you very much for that. So another question that came in was, does the nationwide virtual platform work within the variety of platforms conference associations are using?
As far as, can we use it at any of the virtual shows?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So different shows are handling that in different ways. And right now what we're seeing is some shows are offering a virtual space that is the same for every exhibitor. And so in that case, we've been able to embed our virtual experience into the show provided experience. And then there's other shows where when you get to their landing page where it displays all of the exhibitors' logos, we're able to have our custom experience launch right there when you click on our logo, rather than going through a show provided space first. And and we can also link directly to it through our social media and on our website. So and also in our virtual experience, we participated in one show as an exhibitor where we actually had at the bottom of our experience, one of our hot buttons linked you back to the show's landing page. So there's all different ways that it can be worked depending on what the show is offering or requiring.
So a question that came in addition to that is for shows that aren't allowing vendors to input on their own booth. So if there's a booth specifically that the association is requiring them to use, can you create a trade show booth that's pretty much a glamorized presentation for their own audience?
Oh, absolutely. Or right in the show provided space where you're able to enter your company information, you can put a link directing people to your custom virtual space, that we have hosted, or that they're hosting themselves, or on their website. So there's always a way to bring show visitors to that space.
Yeah, it's simple enough as it's an embed code essentially. So what Karen was referring to is, great for the show that we went to, for instance, they allowed you to put in your company description, and instead of putting a company description in there, or we put in a short company description and then just took a short embed code, put it right in there, and then all of a sudden, even though we weren't technically supposed to be having a custom exhibit, it was really a basic landing page that they gave us. What was showing when visitors visited our landing page was our custom exhibit. So it's super easy to do that. And if a certain show doesn't allow that type of functionality, you can just link to your custom exhibit via a very simple URL.
So another question that we have is, are virtual booths difficult for food companies and other companies that sell products and or have taste samples in their booth? Can you talk a little bit about how those types of companies could utilize one of these virtual booths?
Yeah, I think the Chosen Foods booth is a good example of that. So you were able to see that they have their products in different sections, their classic products, their new products. If they wanted to have more product lines on display, they could certainly do that throughout the space. And that only piece that's missing is not being able to taste through the virtual space. But our clients we do have a lot of clients in the food industry, and they've been finding some really creative and fun ways to get products out to their visitors in advance or shortly after their events and shows. So they're still able to tie that all back in. And by having that custom virtual experience available to them any day of the year, any time of the day, they're able to invite these customers and buyers and prospects back to their experience once they have those samples in their hands.
Great. And a follow-up question to that is, are you able to add e-commerce directly into the booth? So can people sell directly from the booth?
Absolutely. So we have the e-commerce sites tied into several of the experiences that we've developed. The Chosen Foods one, for example, you saw that there were links under the products to go to their website. We could easily link to an e-commerce site that way as well. Or it can be embedded right into the space.
Super. And another question that we have that came in is there a spec sheet available with design options for moving forward into 2021?
Kind of like a list of the features that are available?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, the summary slide that I showed offers a recap of the majority of the features that are out there. But so when the webinar is over and we post it, we'll also be sending out an email to everybody with a link back to watch it again if they want to. I'm happy to send that information out to anybody who is interested in that. So yeah, and there's always features that are being developed. When our clients ask us, can you do this? No, not yet, but we will figure out how. So if there's a feature that you're looking for that's not on that list, just let us know, and we'll definitely get right on that.
We also, just to Karen's point too, so when we start a project, we also start with a questionnaire, which asks those questions. Would you want e-commerce? Would you want CRM? So the answer is that we treat these projects like we treat our custom exhibit design. So everyone is gets our personal attention. We sit down with you guys, do a full design and functionality request, and then we take it from there. So.
This looks to be the last question. I'm flipping through the chat here. If I missed any, please go ahead and send them in to me right now. But it looks to be the last question is about technology and just how tech savvy the user of the exhibit needs to be. Do they need to know a lot of programming or a lot of coding? If they're just the ones walking clients through it, how tech savvy do they need to be in order to really execute these on a great level?
I'm not very tech savvy, and I think I get through these pretty well myself. So yeah, it's really been made as user friendly as possible, and there's always, if somebody is facing a challenge, you saw that every time I hovered over an area that can be clicked, there was either an icon or it highlighted in blue. And there's the legends at the beginning that can let everyone know where they can go, how they can access this. But if there's other ways that we can make this even easier for anyone who's struggling with it, by all means, let us know. We're happy to do whatever is needed to make this. The whole idea is for this to be a tool that can be used every single day, not just at the trade shows a couple of times a year. So, we want this to be able to enhance what companies' sales and marketing teams are doing. And so it's got to be as easy as possible to get the widest reach.
Great. I don't see any other questions coming in on the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I think that Karen's going to pop a slide up for us that has all of our social handles, because we would love to see all of you on our social media channels moving forward. We are going to be sending an email out to everyone following up this webinar with a link to the presentation so you can watch it again and see all of those slides in your own time. But we do post a lot of tips and a lot of things that you can use to build your virtual exhibit on social media. We are also going to be hosting another webinar in the near future, integrating virtual exhibits into live shows, how to produce your own event. So stay tuned on email and social media for that. And we would love anyone that is inspired to start planning their virtual event today to drop us your contact information in the text chat. I know Karen and Steve and Joe would love to get on a virtual call with you and start discussing your project. So free consultation for anybody that's looking to get started. All you have to do is drop your name into that text chat. Karen, Joe, or Steve, any final words before we sign off?
Just thank you, everybody, for taking the time to participate in this webinar. We hope we did educate you, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.